All right, it is 6:30 p.m. and the Urban Design Commission meeting for November 12th, 2014 is called to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Sawhill?
Here.
Ms. Sullivan?
Here.
Ms. Emerton?
Here.
Mr. Winchester?
Here.
Ms. Ream?
Here.
Mr. Condon?
Here.
Mr. Leonetti?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for approval for the minutes for this evening? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioner Sawhill. Do we have a second? We have a second from Commissioner Sullivan. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Okay. Minutes are approved. Okay. Do we have any disclosures for this evening? Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes, from the consent agenda, I would like to abstain to vote in case 2014-011 related to case 2014-0122, and also I would like to be excused from the regular agenda in case 2014-0157. I have a conflict of interest. I'm a project designer.
Okay, thank you. Can we get a motion to direct Commissioner Sullivan to not participate? Or to participate? Oh, to participate in case 2014-0157. I have a motion to direct from Commissioner Ream and a second from Commissioner Sawhill. Okay. Can everybody please vote on Commissioner Ream, or not Commissioner Ream, sorry, Commissioner Sullivan's participation for case 2014-0157. All right, Commissioner Sullivan, you have been directed not to participate.
Thank you.
Commissioner Winchester, do you have disclosures?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm the architect for the Anchorage East High School renewal. This particular project at East High School, which is case 214-0159, I don't have anything particular to do with. I'm working inside the building, but I am aware of the project and participated in the master planning.
Okay. Can we get a motion to direct Commissioner Winchester to participate in 2014-0159? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Condon and a second from Commissioner Sullivan. Do we have any questions did you have questions for Commissioner Winchester?
Yes, I did.
Commissioner Sawhill.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Winchester, I guess I just wanted to clarify that you don't have any financial interest in the case that's before us,
I have none.
and you feel you'll be able to act fairly in evaluating the matter?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any further questions, and I intend to support the motion to direct Commissioner Winchester to participate.
Thank you. Does anybody have any additional questions for Commissioner Winchester? Can everybody please vote on directing him to participate? Okay, thank you. You have been directed to participate in case 2014-0159. Do we have any additional disclosures for this evening?
Yes, I was not seated on the commission at the time, so I'm not going to vote on the consent agenda.
Thank you. And Commissioner Sawhill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In case 2014-008, I was not present at the public hearing for the public facility site plan and landscape plan review, so I would like to abstain from that consent agenda item.
Thank you. Any additional disclosures for this evening? Okay. So that moves us on to approve the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? And this will be for case 2014-0098, 2014-0122, 2014-0147, and 2014-0146. We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Winchester. Do we have a second? And we have a second from Commissioner Ream. Does anybody have any additional discussion for consent agenda? Okay. And the consent agenda has been approved. All right. This brings us to the regular agenda for this evening. And at this time, I'm going to read the appeal process. An individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Urban Design Commission takes, except commission recommendations to the Assembly which are not appealable. Appeals must be filed with the clerk's office within 20 days after the approval by the Urban Design Commission of the resolution, which is the Commission's final decision. A fee for the appeal is required at the time of filing. And an individual may request written findings from any Commission decision within 7 days. We are now moving on to case 2014-0157. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for concept approval for both the public facilities site plan review and a landscape plan for the renovation of the Z.J. Lusac Public Library. Before I begin, I want to bring the Commission's attention to Exhibit A, and it follows, well, it's not got a page number, but Exhibit A is a master plan, site plan, but it's from the Lusac Library master plan. It is not under consideration or for any kind of action tonight. This is strictly the concept plan and landscape plan for the pedestrian plaza and surrounding area on sheet C-105. I had a call today querying if that was under consideration, the master plan from the Lusac Library's master plan, and it is not. Therefore, to continue, the Lusac Library was constructed in '83. It's 135,600 plus square feet. It's located south of 36th Avenue, east of Barrow Street, west of Denali, and north of the Cuddy Midtown Park. This project does consist of 4 components. There is the demolition of the existing exterior stairwell, the elevated entry plaza and vestibule, and demolition of the southwest enclosed stairwell access to the assembly chambers. The renovation of the ground floor lobby will increase the area from 2,500 square feet to 4,000 square feet. It also includes direct access to the elevators from the new larger lobby, relocation of the circulation desk to the ground floor lobby, addition of central toilet facilities, and a coffee shop also will be in the new lobby. And the new southwest entry will add about 2,600 square feet on the ground floor and 1,500 square feet on the second floor. And there will be addition of conference rooms on the second level as a result of some increased space on the second level. It also includes construction of a new exterior pedestrian plaza and eliminating a through access for vehicular traffic along Sherrock Way, except for but emergency response vehicles. There will be breakaway bollards to allow access to the new lobby. And there will also be construction of a new drive-through book drop lane. In reviewing the project, it complies with many of the policies established in Anchorage 2020, as well as goals within the Anchorage pedestrian plan. The library is located in a major employment center. It's surrounded by commercial, institutional, and recreational uses. It is located in a walkable area that is served by public transportation. The goal of the renovation project is to create a pedestrian plaza to improve pedestrian access to a major public facility and ultimately provide pedestrian links to the Midtown Park. The project does conform to the applicable requirements of this Title 21 in terms of use, dimensional standards, parking, loading, and landscaping requirements. Additional trees and shrubs will supplement the landscaping that exists, and seating will be provided in the plaza to create a comfortable environment for the patrons of the library. And Sherrock Drive will be closed through vehicular traffic for safer access to the new library. The department does recommend approval of the concept site plan and landscape plan for the pedestrian plaza only of the Z.J. Lusac Library renovation project, which is again on sheet C-105, subject to a number of conditions. One is to relocate the proposed seating at the base of the Ann Stevens Room to a location that will receive more sunlight. The pedestrian plaza, because of the size of the adjoining structures, will be in shadow for periods of time during the day. Provide a paved pathway across the landscape island to provide a way to access the plaza without having to walk in the roadway, as there will be increased traffic related to the new book drop area. The design should consider providing a through route only for emergency vehicles to Denali Street, especially in the case of medical emergencies when time is of the essence, and it may be difficult for large emergency vehicles to make U-turns or to exit from the pedestrian plaza in a timely manner to meet the 4-minute response time that is established by the fire department strategic plan. Another recommendation is to reduce the size of the book drop signage and consider using the wall space to add artistic features as part of the 1% for the Arts program, to reduce the impact of the blank wall above the book drop sign. Also, in response to comments from the State Department of Transportation, to verify clear vision at the various access sites to determine that proposed landscaping does not interfere with the ability to see oncoming traffic, and finally to submit a lighting plan for the pedestrian plaza. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Commissioner Sawhill?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ms. O'Brien, in your condition of approval number 2, I wasn't quite following, which landscape island you wanted to have an additional walkway across. Can you describe that, please?
Referring to sheet C-105, there's a landscape island. It would be the eastern landscape island next to one of the drums or the fountain area, and the non-motorized transportation coordinator asked that there be a walkway through that somewhere located within that that landscape island, so that they could walk safely through the to the access to the pedestrian plaza, rather than having to walk in the roadway where traffic will be coming, one-way traffic will be coming from the book drop-off area. I realize that there is a walkway, a sidewalk to the north of those parking stalls. There's also a temporary walkway leading from the parking area to the pedestrian plaza. But I believe that's temporary and may not be there permanently at the conclusion of the renovation. And in discussion with the non-motorized transportation coordinator, she wanted to see something a little bit more permanent for pedestrian safety.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. O'Brien, are you familiar with any phasing of this project?
I believe that it is supposed to begin in next year, but I am not familiar with the total phasing of how long this project will take, and I respectfully defer to the petitioner's representative to expand on that question.
Okay, great, thank you. And then Mr. Sawhill's question is still a question in my mind. Where? Got it. Thank you. No other questions.
Commissioner Winchester?
Yes, the question I had is related to the ADA access and drop-off at this point. Is that, I mean, where is that being addressed in terms of proximity to the main entrance?
I have to flip to the map. On sheet sheet 10C, Madam Chair, Mr. Winchester, on sheet C105 and 106, the ADA access is in the current parking area, and it is just before the well, access would be through the book drop-off lane. Because that's going to be one way now, so they would have to come through the northernmost entrance to the library, travel through the parking lot, and there are two accessible parking spaces there. And I believe at, and it's not shown on the particular, although there's only a two temporary parking spaces and bicycle covered bicycle parking. So those are the two accessible parking spaces.
So the two ADA that we see here, and then I guess there's an existing ADA over on the east
Yes,
side.
that is shown as remaining.
But as far as drop-off of children or buses or other things?
To drop off, if you go to the end of the concrete, the area that is shown as concrete, and the entry into the end of the where the Shamrock does not go through, there are two drop-off locations right there next to the bicycle parking.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leonetti, did you have more questions? No? Okay. Do you have any additional questions for staff? Thank you. Can the petitioner please come forward? And can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Hello, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Tanya Hickok, Hickok. I am a planner and civil engineer over at Dowell HKM, and with me tonight is some of the design team, the lead architect, James Doherty with RIM Architects, as well as Peter Briggs with Corvus Design, our landscape architect, as well as the municipal client, James Brzeski with MOA PM&E, and they'll be available for any additional questions as well. So to start this case, this application is specifically requesting approval of a public facility site plan review as well as the landscape site plan review. A little bit of history. Obviously, this building was one of the Project 80s projects back in the early 80s. And recently, over the last several years, we had done some significant public outreach trying to figure out through the master plan process what the main issues at the library were to make it more user-friendly. Some of the specific items that were identified were access to the main entry, wayfinding, where is the main entry, safety for pedestrians, children walking to and from parking to the main entry. The stairwell that's exterior to the site was notated as a safety deterrent, as well as the book drop was notified as from staff level as being a safety concern, having to haul the books to and from outside into the library through their loading area, as well as the need for additional conference rooms and space. So through that master plan process, we identified the main core items that we wanted to address with this project, and we went before the Parks and Rec Commission as well as the Midtown Community Council and have garnered their support for this project. Specifically, as notated in I believe it's page 42 of your packet, as well as this aerial photo, you can take a look at how centrally located the LUSAC Library is, close to transit, as well as other public amenities such as the park and the post office and office retail, as well as the new natural pantry. And it has some great synergy, and that we wanted to continue that synergy with maintaining a focus of where the entry of the library was to draw into the library. If you'll look at our proposed plan, we aren't proposing any changes to the exterior access points into the library. There will still be the access from Sherrick to that northeastern parking lot will still remain, as well as the main entrance off of Barrow. Barrow has now been extended, as well extending to 38th, which is now going to B Street. That was part of the Natural Pantry project. So connectivity in the area has improved. And so we're just continuing on to how we can focus people to the main entry of the library. As Ms. O'Brien mentioned, the renovation includes several different components. First component being the demolition of the exterior stairwell due to the safety impacts, as well as that second floor entry plaza vestibule. So that will also be demolished. And then there will be a new expansion and renovation of the first floor lobby, which James will be able to go to in a little bit more detail, as well as relocation of the circulation desk from the second floor to the first floor, increasing the lobby, adding another doorway entry for the assembly entrance on the west side of the site, as well as adding a book drop-off, which would be one way with an expansion of the building to access directly from the inside of the building to the book drop-off, so there isn't that having to come outside trying to access for the staff to collect all the books and media. So part of the exterior improvements are going to include the disconnection or elimination of the Chirac Way, which has been a pass-through, drive-through, which was not necessarily a public access. It's a private drive, but has been used as private cut-through. And so we had done a traffic impact analysis to notate what that cutting off of Sherrick Way would do, and we found no extensive delays at all, no change in level of service from that disconnection of Sherrick Way. And specifically the two drop-off areas, there's an additional drop-off area that Ms. O'Brien did not mention, which is to the south of the plaza area that will be right parallel to the drive aisle on the south side. And that also, I believe it has 4 or 5 drop-off areas for clientele to drop off children or what have you for the plaza. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Peter so he can talk a little bit more about his landscape design at that main entry plaza.
The landscape design and site design was summarized pretty...
Sorry, can you state and spell your
Oh,
name?
I'm sorry.
That's
Peter
okay.
Briggs, Briggs.
Thank you.
Staff summarized the site and landscape design pretty well. Just like to hit a couple main things to reiterate. The main intent of the landscape and the site design was to provide for existing sidewalk connections to the site perimeter. We're not really changing the movement for pedestrians coming into or out of the site. One of the main reasons for the plaza in the front, the removal of the stairwell, was to provide a really clear direction to the building entry for people coming onto the site, whether on vehicle, bicycle, or walking. Expanding bicycle parking, which will be located underneath the Ann Stevens room, so it'll become covered. Trying to find a good balance between provision of paved areas and landscape areas in order to accommodate people coming into the building with good pathway connections, providing for people sitting, reading, watching people, and the programmed uses of the library might like to use in that plaza out front. Seating within the area will be a combination of informal seating on seat walls, those kind of elements, and then there will be benches provided in the front. The landscape design and the planting design is relatively simple. It's intended to match the maintenance regime that's currently out there, and also to match the aesthetic of the plantings that are existing already. From a site functions point of view, providing enough soft areas where temporary snow can be moved off to the side. Snow movement, snow storage, and snow removal is a pretty important component of this in order to minimize maintenance requirements. The overall design intent for it really does respond to functional needs, and it also really seeks to highlight architectural features of the building and to strengthen them in the landscape. The one component that's really strong for the library is the drum features of the three main drums. The original landscape plans from Richard Haig when the project was originally created had a circular form of trees in the front of the building that still you can see there. So one of the intents for the node that we have in the northeast of the parking lot is to bring that to the back of the site as well and have another circular reference to the trees to bring out those elements to try to get some continuity. From the public process that we had, this project has a pretty small landscape area. It's adjacent to the front of the building because the intent of this part of the job is, or this project is just building renovations. Within this, though, providing connections to the fountain out to the lawn. They have great events there like the Makerspace, the Maker Fair that they had this past fall or late summer. Really trying to do in our small spaces to activate some of the things they do already and to enable them to have a better space out front for their programming needs. And I will now pass it off to James Doherty to address architectural components.
And if you could state and spell your name, and just so you know, we have about a minute and a half left.
Let's pick this up. My name is James Doherty. It's spelled Dougherty. I think Tanya and Peter have pretty much summed up the landscape idea. Sort of in summary, this building was built 30 years ago. That's when systems start to exceed their usable life. So in going through and master planning the fix of the building, we also are trying to look at how to make libraries work. Looking 30 years into the future, a lot of things have changed since this building was built. The internet as a major source of people getting information. So there's been some restacking, looking at some master planning inside the building. The main feature that I'd like to point out is that when you walked into this building tonight, there's no staff, a fairly small lobby. And the idea is by moving the circulation desk downstairs to the main level, there'll be like eyes on the street, the lights will be on, there'll be people, there'll be activity, and so that lobby will really be energized and enlarged. Some of the problematic areas of the building, that very large skylight that was constructed is leaking and failing, and we're trying to remove that, but still have some of that feeling of interconnectivity of a multi-floor space. But that openness also creates some acoustical problems, so we do have the spaces separated with glass for acoustic, and I'll just answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the petitioner? Commissioner Sawhill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess where I would like to start is some of the site design issues. And one of the things that was submitted to us was the master plan that for the project, and I understand that there's things in this master plan that aren't correct, aren't current. Can you explain some of those?
I'll start to address it, and I might have to rely on our other planners. We did meant to mention, I think in the packet it says that this is not an approved master plan, or that we're not working from an approved master plan. It was not our intention to suggest that that site plan that was included is a master plan. What we were trying to do is sort of document all of the factors that people have talked about in terms of future development, and realizing that there's a lot of stakeholders, a lot of input. If we start to address the greater site, the impacts of the new natural pantry circulation, possible connection to 40th Avenue and other things like that, there's a lot of planning work that needs to be done that hasn't been done at this point. And so we really wanted to de-emphasize that, because our neighbor to the south, the Cuddy Midtown Family Park, they have some master planning effort that they've been doing, and they've agreed to sort of work with the library people to make sure that the grand vision is a mutual thing that's sort of works for the public and for both entities. And that process just hasn't even started yet. So our focus today was to really look at how can we fix the repair issues around the main entry and still leave all of those opportunities to do a great overall master plan, making sure that we're not building things that might have to be torn out as additional funding comes online and a greater planning vision takes place for the whole sort of regional park and parking.
Okay. Well, I guess coming back to that, I looked at your landscape, looked at the master plan that's not a master plan, and then I looked at the site design that you provided, and I saw some features in the master plan that I liked, and they are not within the plan that you submitted. And my primary issue and concern is an adequate drop-off area. If you look at the master plan, it has a nice looped drop-off area with a pretty extensive space for a lot of drop-offs. And then I look at the site design that you have, and it looks inadequate to me. It doesn't look like it has sufficient number of drop-off spaces. And I guess I would share with you that I have grave concerns over the site plan that I have been submitted, and I am not sure I can support it as submitted. So how do we fix drop-offs on this site plan?
Well, through the chair, you'll notice that there's an overlay on the landscape plan. And what we're trying to do is, the reason for that sort of quote-unquote master plan was to make sure that those future elements, an adequate area for school bus drop-off zones and things that don't exist now that we'd like to have exist in the future, we've situated, we don't have that's a multi-million-dollar project. And we tried, for the last 2 years, they've been under a process of sort of prioritizing what the highest needs are at the library up until the point that our budget is expended. And we couldn't really address some of the larger site issues that we'd like to, but we've replicated the amount of drop-off space with this, I think we're calling it temporary drop-off, realizing that what we'd really like to do is have a large sweeping bus turnaround like shows in that master plan. We just simply don't have the funding now to support that, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't place any architectural elements or site permanent elements that would prevent us from actually, as funds come forward and there's other visions for new phases, that we would be able to accomplish those good features that you see in that overall plan. That was the reason for the plan. Not that it's an officially adopted plan, but it helps to guide our efforts so that we don't throw good money after bad.
I guess that comes back to Mr. Leonetti's question is, are you aware of any phasing plan for this? What is the ultimate plan for the library? How are the phases laid out? And what kind of assurances does this board have that those future phases will ever occur?
Well, I'll address the phasing in sort of two answers. This project, and we're looking at this project, is only what you see, the upgrade to the entry and the 3 stories of renovation and modest areas outside, is all of the money that we have, all of the money that's been identified. It is the project. Obviously, we have, over the last few years, identified several $1 million worth of additional work that could be done and should be done, but just simply there's no funding source identified for it right now. So to accomplish this work, obviously we'd have to have phases because we're pulling off the main entry, and we've sort of structured it so that there is that entry that we've identified for the assembly can become a main entry sort of during the construction phases. But as far as what will happen next and how long will it be before that funding comes forward, your guess is as good as mine. There's people that have been waiting, over 10 years for this project to happen. It's all a matter of what kind of support fundraisers can generate.
Okay. My next question is looking at sheet C105, and there's a parking lot layout kind of on the western side, and you have some parking spaces that head into some other parking spaces that are striped, and that just looks kind of goofy to me. Are you really going to do that?
Well, that was in response to, we basically cut off that parking lot intact, and we had to create a hammerhead situation where we could both drop people off and then be able to back out. So those aren't parking spaces. That's if a car comes up to drop somebody off, there's curbside drop off, and then they can back out and leave. Oh, those, you might want to address those. Yeah.
Are you referencing the ones in the current assembly parking lot?
Yes.
The ones that are striped in there, we're trying to maximize the number of parking spaces we're getting. The first way we looked at it was having them head into the curb. So the way they are striped, yes, we provide with a wheel stop or otherwise to stop someone from nudging into the car in front of them. But it's squeezing out parking spaces.
And every time you guys switch, can you just say
Oh,
your name?
Peter Briggs.
Thank you. Thank you.
My other question in that area is connecting that parking lot to the one-way book drop just doesn't make sense to me either. It just looks like it's going to create congestion issues. It's being done on a poor angle, so sight distance will be difficult. Why do you feel that is important, and why shouldn't you just eliminate that connection?
I don't know which one you want to address that.
I don't have the best answer. This is a weird part of the site with the strange geometries to it. So trying to avoid a dead-end parking space in this area, the intent was that the book drop-off lane being one way. The way it's shown in the plan is I think it's a 26-foot width total because this also acts as our fire lane. So sight distances for people coming out of the assembly parking lot looking left will be clear and open because it's a fairly wide space coming into that. This is a concern for us from a geometry point of view that we're still trying to refine. So your comment is excellent and is noted.
But I think you see as you rightly pointed out, I'm sorry, James Doherty again.
Thank you.
Through the chair,
Yeah.
Commissioner Sawhill. That is greatly improved if we realize that master plan. So we're trying to sort of make it work now, but also make it work better when more funds are available.
And I guess my next question is, what would your reaction be to a condition of approval to provide a drop-off area in conformance with the master plan drawing Exhibit A?
Peter Briggs. Responding to that first and regarding the various versions of planning for this site, the plan that we had submitted within this was based on the public outreach and showed an alternative vision to what had been shown by the Cuddy Family Midtown Park plan that had a lot of community input into it. Before we move ahead with anything which would depart significantly from the Cuddy Family Midtown Park plan, it would require a public process to be respectful of that process. The design as we show it right now is fairly future compatible. It would work with a number of different visions. with implementing, and when Mr. Doherty referenced a plan, he was referencing a L901. L901 has some faint line work shown to the west of the South Drum that shows an overlay of a potential drop-off and a loop. When we go into providing a solution like that, it starts to preclude other future master plan ideas. The previous Cuddy Family Midtown Park plan did have a drop-off shown coming through the site, but it was significantly different from what this is. So referencing your question of whether we'd be willing to see a condition providing better drop-off, I would just request that it be have some leeway for potential design solutions. Is that fair, James?
James Doherty again. What you see, we realized that the drop-off area was problematic, and that's why we created the zone that would allow you to circulate through the parking lot and queue up curbside. That was the best we could do within the budget. And in fact, we're kind of stretching the budget a little bit to go with something more aggressive. It's just how much that we need to spend in the building versus how much we can spend on the site, recognizing that to do the site right is a considerable time and effort that has not been planned yet. And I think that's what Mr. Briggs was alluding to, is that to do it right, we really have to get a lot of community stakeholders and input, and we're concerned about the time constraints and really being able to deliver the project as directed.
And for the sake of Peter Briggs, sorry, for the sake of considering existing conditions versus future conditions, the existing conditions allow for approximately 6 vehicle drop-off in the area in front of the chambers right here. So that's why we've tried to provide the 4 on the main parking lot side and then the 2 head-in spaces in the northeast. So we're trying to maintain at least the same as current, but the functioning of it, at least for the northeast ones, is not optimal.
I appreciate your additional information, and I guess I would share with you. I think the architectural plans are great. I think you're on the right track, and then the new entrances you're planning are going to be a great addition. We currently have a good drop-off situation here at the library, and I think with the plans we have in front of us, it's going to be not so good. And I would think it could be better. So thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad I delayed my button pushing. I share a lot of the similar comments as Mr. Sahil, and I'll start with what I like. I do like the architectural features in the courtyard that has been established, and the seating and the pavement patterns and the landscaping that's tied with the pedestrian connections from both sides of the parking. I do have grave concerns over the drop-off and the parking. This project, the good part of it, eliminates something that's becoming bad. And it's not bad just on design, it's bad on safety of the general public. And that's where I have the biggest concerns. I think that the way that this is currently showed on L, the one I keep referencing is 901, it seems to be the cleanest to look at. If you come in from the west and you head like you're going to go to the library and drop somebody off, I think everybody is going to drive straight into the drop-off for books and circulate the opposite direction it was intended to design. It was designed, and I think that is very bad. One way that can be, well, there's numerous ways that can be solved, but I have the exact same concerns about the parking lot that's west of the building that has some, perpendicular parking adjacent, they're perpendicular to each other. It's a winter city, deferred maintenance for the rest of the time that it's there is going to just be a headache, and it's just going to be problematic. The fire lane, I think, is adequate, and it seems like it accomplishes a lot, and it is designed well. But I can't support a project that's designed like this. It just is an eyesore on on how people are going to access this very highly used library. So I could entertain some conditions. The condition that Mr. Sahe was referring to about referencing the master plan, I understand that there's a serious public process. So how do we accomplish something that's safe here, as well as move the project forward? What would happen if you eliminated the 6 parking spaces in the middle of that island and cut off the access to the book drop-off and extended your landscape island so that eastbound traffic stops at that first intersection and is forced to make a right-hand turn? Would that be something that is achievable? I don't even want to think about crafting that condition, but yeah, and maybe it's return for redesign.
Peter Briggs. And the first thing I should note is that we just finished 65% drawings for this, so there have been some improvements within these areas for what you spoke to about the circulation. It's not in front of you, but this being a concept review, we'll still be coming back to you with final. So any conditions you would like to make for us to consider or work toward improvements, we're certainly willing to do that. You are noting some areas that have been design challenges for us, and we appreciate you commenting on those. So some small changes have been made that do make it better. Currently, from a parking point of view, I know that we're looking at a parking, that's the right term, parking. I don't know if that's, do you want to address parking?
Yeah, from a parking standpoint, Tanya Hickok. From a parking standpoint, we did a parking study going out and doing parking counts to figure out what our actual usage is, and we're only at about 42% of our parking today during the peak hour. So we are actually going to be trying to obtain a parking variance from the municipal traffic engineer. Since this is a PLI zone parcel, we are allowed to get a variance with a parking study showing that we can meet the parking demand. So at this point, I think we're in the 6 or 7% parking variance. So if making some efficiencies and maybe requesting a larger parking variance may be possible.
James Doherty again. The other thing to consider, and it is a challenge for us, there's so many things that are already locked in place. But in addition to that being a book drop, that is our fire lane. So we have to sort of provide generous access so we can get the right size apparatus in and out of there. Otherwise, we'd be sort of choking some of these things down to emphasize different directions for cars to go. So that's one of the things that's creating a little bit of a challenge and making that a little more welcoming than I think it should be for a one-lane one-way traffic, but it's driven quite a bit by fire apparatus access.
Thank you. So are you referring to the idea of eastbound traffic running into a T, that they would be forced to make a right-hand movement, right turn movement? Is that what that reference was for the fire apparatus movement turning?
Maybe to clarify, Peter Briggs, to clarify in this area, eastbound traffic coming into the site, the design is different than what is shown now. Is when you come in the right lane, you'll be having a curb ahead of you rather than this open throat as currently shown. That will act as a bit more of a visual T where you'll know you're supposed to go right. But to the left of it, you'll have that 12-foot wide one-way lane coming out. So there's some things to clear it up. I think potential parking reductions, getting a bit more space for this would make it a bit more logical, like you say.
Great, thanks. For some reason, I thought that I read that there were heated sidewalks. Is that accurate?
The concept design included heated sidewalks, and we've done a concept design that brings that heated sidewalk out to curbside. But again, as the budget numbers come in, as we look at maintenance and other costs, the Muni has turned off their heated sidewalks downtown. I wouldn't count on the sidewalks being heated other than maybe a walk-off runway right before you get to the doors to keep slush at bay.
Okay, great, thank you. And then back to the vehicular circulation, how does a emergency vehicle get from the east to the west? Are there removable bollards, and do they just drive on the pavement, the concrete?
Peter Briggs. Currently with fire, they are not requiring us to provide access through the front plaza area. So since the submittal of this set, the change has been that we don't currently have in the project emergency vehicle access through the face of the building. But I know that that is a condition for us to consider that as well from a public safety point of view.
And that's the, like, condition number 4 or something, right? That's what you're referring to?
I believe so. No, the condition number 3 regards emergency vehicles. And within this area as well, one of our prime design criteria has been pedestrian safety. So if it's appropriate just to speak to consideration number 2. Consideration number 2, recommendation number 2 would introduce pedestrians crossing the road in another location. I think that we would request if that recommendation could be changed from provide to consider, because we would like to work with staff in order to better understand the reason that they would like to provide that north-south connection.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Leonetti. Commissioner Winchester?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also, having been involved in this facility from its inception a long time ago and know a lot about how it was originally designed, my question is really pretty much to support Mr. Saho and Mr. Leonetti. I find that you're taking a facility where you can drop off a person in a wheelchair within about 12 or 15 feet of the main entrance doors, and you're moving them to about 80 to 100 feet from those main entrance doors, and they're going to have to cross a snow-covered plaza to get there. And I understand that the architectural, I think, to reiterate, I think you've done a great job of solving those problems. The concern is that in solving those problems, we've actually created one much larger, which is how do the pedestrians that get to this library and those that are oftentimes ADA, wheelchairs, crutches, you name it, how do we get those people to the front door easily? How do we get that emergency vehicle, which is brought up by staff, to the front door easily to take that person who's had a heart attack in the library into an ambulance? And I think that we've missed something here. Yes, we've created the architectural solutions. Yes, we've solved the problems from the internal perspective of the library and the book drop, which I find to be like the major thing, the book drop. And I'm saying, but the book drop, is the book drop more important than every person in crutches that tries to get to the library? And so I think we're looking at the priorities here and maybe have missed an important aspect that I think certainly Mr. Saho and Mr. Leonetti have brought up. I'm going to find it very difficult to support this because I don't see that there's been a plan put in place that's absolutely going to happen, that's going to solve this in the near future. And you're right, there's a lot of funding issues. I understand all of those things. But to just arbitrarily cut off public access or easy access for that person who may not be fully ambulatory to the front entrance of the library, when we have such great access now, and say, well, we'll solve that in the future, doesn't seem to me to be a particularly good place to start. So with that said, I guess the question is, I mean, I know you must have had discussions about this and how far away the front entrance was from even the ADA handicap parking spots, let alone a drop-off of 3 2-year-old children that you're trying to take to the library for the first time.
James Doherty will handle that one. Both commissioners stated the importance of easy access, safe access to the front door, and I think that's pretty much the the pivot point for this whole project is removing vehicular and pedestrian conflicts that exist at that main entrance, which you have to kind of give credit to the fact that this project is about removing some of those conflicts. And it did take into account many, many layers of priorities of how can we serve the public. There is great precedent for public buildings, the federal building downtown, the museum, that are served by plazas. You cannot pull up to the front door to go in, but the plaza serves other purposes of separating vehicular traffic. And when you look at what those emergency responders would have to do if there was a tragedy inside the building, given the various elevators and disconnected stairways and all of those things that are being consolidated so that we have quick and easy access to all floors for all people, being able to be 50 feet closer to the door doesn't necessarily mean safe or more access. I think that there is a place for public plazas, and I think we are creating a place that is easy to maintain, easy to remove snow, so that people will have access. The whole purpose is to provide safe access to this building. So there are several priorities that are constrained by a very fixed budget, and we're trying to hit the highest priorities first. I know that you're looking at site issues, and those are an important part for us to solve, but we can't solve everything within the context of the project scope that we have.
Peter Briggs, and one thing I'd like to add is during discussions, it's probably useful to separate ADA from drop-off. There are 7 ADA parking spaces that are being maintained to the northeast of the building there. There is a door that is proximal to those. It's underneath the Ann Stevens room. And I think, is that a new door or is that existing? That's so there's a door that's within 30 feet of the closest ADA space. It's also within about 30 feet of those 2 drop-off spaces. So it's not optimal to provide 6 drop-offs like the current conditions, but we have provided 2 drop-off spaces that are right at the doors. Another thing I'd like to mention is along the parking to the south, there are 10 parking spaces that are being converted to be elderly parking and family parking and 15-minute parking. So one part of this from an access point of view is trying to encourage wider parking spaces for those people that do need it, but that is in the general parking area. But access has been probably one of the highest conversations we've had.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to be really clear. I really appreciate the plaza. I think it works great. It functions really good. The movement through the plaza, I think, is really good. The seating and the vegetation around the plaza, I think, is really well thought out. The issue that I brought up, as well as Mr. Sawhill, is getting from your vehicle as a passenger to that plaza. And right now, yes, we do have a nice little drop-off out front, but we need to be designing safe environments, and I think that it can be accomplished here with some minor changes, but I'm concerned about the lack of organization of the phasing, and obviously nobody has unlimited purses or wallets, but at the same time, a good plan goes a long ways to further a project. So you had mentioned that an extensive public process would be needed to implement the quote-unquote not master plan that we have here for a drop-off. Could you describe that a little bit for me?
This is James Doherty. I don't know that the public process is any more extensive than any other project. The practical process of getting the different parties together to agree on the proper way to design this is a process that will probably take years to accomplish, and funding that doesn't exist. I will refocus back to the master plan document that was included. There is a solution for drop-off that I think meets your needs that's out there, like a master plan. It's just not funded. And we know there's a better way to do this. We know how to get there. The difference is just money and willpower. And so it's not like we don't know how to solve the problem and haven't considered what the solution, the appropriate long-term solution should be. We just can't fund it this time around.
So what's the rough order of magnitude? Like if this, in this plan here, the master plan, if that drop-off is designed, what would be lost in the building that is currently, this current renovation? What portion would be lost?
Nothing. Nothing would be lost.
I think you misunderstood.
Yeah, no, I think you misunderstood. So the master plan is not a master plan. If that configuration for the loop drop-off and access from the south, if that was the design, instead of what we have here, what would be lost within the building that is currently being renovated?
Nothing. That's the whole point. We have the opportunity to do that without changing any of the construction that we're doing now.
So we could make a condition that says, provide a drop-off.
If we were to build this, what comes out of the building?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I misunderstood you.
Yeah, I think you did.
I'm talking about the master planned drop-off, that not what you just described earlier today. Is that
If the master plan,
This one.
if the master plan drop-off were to be implemented,
right?
what would it delete from your project?
Oh.
If you had to pay for it.
Funding. Approximately. I mean, is it like half the project, or is it like 10% of the project?
I couldn't venture a guess. It's not the, in order to accomplish that, you would get into the first traffic islands of the existing parking lot, and you would start to diminish the parking count. And the parking there's a tug of war between the Cuddy family, what their needs are for the parking, and their idea for an alley, a grand sort of connection. And so all of this stuff is in the mix. And once we sort of touch that parking lot, we kind of owe a solution for all of those issues. So we have sideboards on what we should be investigating now, so that we don't get into those bigger issues that we can't solve within the time frame of getting this project to bid next March.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Condon?
Yes, Madam Chair. It's a little disturbing to have the site plan turn out not to be a site plan, but that plan, I think, really does clearly address all the issues that have been brought forward. Having this secondary access road into the parking lot certainly mitigates problems with emergency vehicles, and what I see here is an evolutionary process. The library is undergoing this process of change, and change for the better. This set of stairs that goes up to that second floor entry area, they're treacherous. I'm sure they're not even close to meeting current stairway standards. Just eliminating those in and of itself is immense progress towards making this a more accessible building. Okay, I think that's a major accomplishment, and I would like to see this project move forward just on those grounds. And eliminating that access promenade is going to greatly improve the access to the library, wayfinding, and I understand the problems associated with the reach that you want, the scope that you would like, and constraints that you have with the budget. But I do see in the master plan this idea that we could eventually evolve into an optimal site plan condition. But I do think that at this point, it's important to get this project moving and get these improvements going and not hold up the process because we don't have a solid solution for, we don't have the money to realize the dream of the master plan at this point. And I think that perhaps if there were the improvements, if the public could see the improvements materialize in the current scope, then perhaps securing funding for the expanded site plan improvements would materialize, would actually happen if we could prove that indeed the library is on the right track and is improving. Incrementally, yes. Optimally, no. But yes, there is improvement. That's enough.
Commissioner Winchester?
So is there a requirement at all that the master plan move forward? I mean, I'm trying to clarify this for my own interest. There's no requirement to do anything beyond this project at this point that you're aware of. And thank you.
Do we have any additional questions for the petitioner? Thank you, guys. So the matter now rests with the commission. Can I get a motion to approve? We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Leonetti and a second from Commissioner Condon. Commissioner Leonetti, would you please state your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For case number 2014-0157, I move for approval of case number 2014-0157, concept approval of a public facility site plan review and a landscape plan review for the Z.J. Lusac Public Library renovations.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Hello. Stand by. Subject to the conditions outlined in the case packet by staff, and I will discuss later. That's it.
Okay. We have a motion to approve case 2014-0157, subject to staff conditions 1 through 6 of the staff packet. That has been motion to approve by Commissioner Leonetti and a second by Commissioner Condon. Commissioner Leonetti, would you care to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I do intend to, I do like the project, like I had mentioned earlier, and I think that the designers have done a really good job on the redesigning of the entrance, the plaza area that's out front, the seating areas are adequate, and the reconfiguration of the parking, I believe, could use some work, and that will come, I believe, later. And I would like to add the following findings of facts. I believe the project conforms to the Title 21 and the following Anchorage 2020 plans. Policy number 7, avoiding incompatible uses for adjoining one another. Policy number 20, medium and high-density residential developments as well as commercial mixed use is encouraged in an aging and underutilized areas adjacent to a major employment center as shown on the land use policy map. Policy number 23, major employment centers exist at the downtown, midtown, and university medical areas. And I would also like to describe the project a little bit that should go before those that I just listed. The renovation consists of the expansion of the ground floor lobby, which serves as the new main entry to the assembly chambers, the William Marston Theater, and the library. The addition of a coffee shop and central toilet facilities on the ground floor and the conference room on the second floor. An additional passenger elevator to the improved circulation, relocation of the circulation desk to the expanded floor lobby, which creates an open space seating on the second floor for library patrons. A construction of a new one-way drive-through book drop lane and relocation of accessible parking spaces. And that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Condon, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, Madam Chair. I intend to support the motion, and I believe that the petitioner has done a good job under the certain constraints that they are working under. I would like to see improvements to the site plan, but I believe that the conditions that staff has mentioned here should be considered, especially the access road, some kind of emergency access. I think that should be clarified, but I think overall this is a good project, and I intend to support it.
Thank you. Additional discussion, Commissioner Sawhill?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have some problems with this project and the design that's in front of us, and I'm not sure I can support it with the current conditions of approval. I think the drop-off area is wholly inefficient and ineffective, and just isn't there. My inclination would be to return this for redesign and to have them come back with a better turnaround design. When you look at L901 and you look at the ghost lines in that site plan that show the drop-off in conformance with the master plan that's not a master plan, you know, that drop-off area works real well. I do understand budget constraints of projects and trying to set priorities and get everything that this library needs with the budget available. But I also believe that getting additional funding at a later date for this library is going to be tough, and whatever we build now we're going to live with for a long time. And I just don't think this concept is good. You know, we could try to craft some additional conditions so we can at least keep the concept going and not impact schedule. But I also believe if we return it for redesign, they can get back in front of the board fairly quickly, as opposed to denying it, and then it really delays them and they have to start the process all over. So I would appreciate some additional discussion from other board members on how they're feeling on this project and leaning. But at this point, I don't believe I can support the motion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I realized as I was thinking and speaking, and after I stopped speaking, that I was going to include additional conditions, and I don't believe I can do that as the motion maker. But I do not. Oh, I can do that.
You have to make another motion, so we'll have a motion to amend.
Okay.
So the one motion has been approved and accepted by the board, so it's with us now. But if you want to add additional conditions, it has to be a motion to amend.
Okay. So I have a hard time supporting the motion that I just made with the same concerns that Mr. Sawhill has. I really don't know if it's more efficient to make a condition or to return for redesign. I'm amenable to either, but I do think there is a solution here that is within their dollar amount that will make a safer environment for the people visiting this site. So in order to in order to make for redesign, I would have to rescind my motion, correct? Withdraw. So why don't we have a little bit more discussion from the other commissioners and figure out if a condition is appropriate to solve this, then I will make it, and if it's more appropriate to return for redesign, I can entertain that as well.
Commissioner Winchester?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Leonetti, Mr. Sawhill, other board members. I am in the same framework as Mr. Sawhill. I will not be supporting the motion. I think that we have bifurcated the site. We have ADA parking on one side accessible from Denali. We have ADA parking from another side. We've somewhat destroyed the wayfinding that existed with at least a drive-through where people could find their way to one parking lot or another. I understand that there's a better plan out there that's ready to go, and people are wanting to work on it. I just find that as a priority, we've fixed the building on the interior. We've done all those things, and a great job, Mr. Doherty. But we've taken away some very major site issues, and totally understand the complexities of dealing with multiple parties and all of the things here. But it seems to me we could live with this for 10 or 15 years, exactly as this is drawn today. And I just wouldn't want to give, I think we've really made a mistake to make these improvements and then leave some very, very large issues unaddressed. And again, the separation, yes, there's an ADA access over here on the east side. I understand that, but it's off of a little parking lot that's off of another street. And so people are going to have to find that ADA parking, but they're not going to find it coming in from the west. And other than there's 2 spots out front here, but they're 90 feet from the front door. So there's just a lot of little issues here as far as how people get to this. And yes, we fixed the stairway, Mr. Condon, and gosh, that's been the speech for the whole town of Anchorage ever since it was built in 1980s, and I remember it. But we've fixed that, and then we've left ourselves with some other major things of a long way to get to the front entrance. So I won't be supporting it. I'm intending to go with Mr. Sawhill, return for redesign. I'm looking for them to come back with some very specific design recommendations that are going to be put forward and taken seriously about getting this drop-off to work for the next 10 or 15 years of this project. Thank you.
So based on some of that additional discussion we've had now, without 5 people supporting this motion, it will not pass. So we have to have the majority, just so everybody knows. So right now, we currently have 3 that are probably, as it stands, are going to be voting against. So just want everybody to know that's where we're at. That's what we're looking at for the moment. So if we want to go back for redesign, that would probably be better for them, unless we can come up with a condition that would help support the motion. So saying all that, Commissioner Condon, did you have some more to add? You were next on my list.
Yes, Madam Chair. I just had one more thing that's in the back of my mind. I'm just curious as to how many people are now disabled because of that set of stairs that exist out front of the library at this point, and that holding up the project because all the minutiae haven't been ironed out or rectified, I think is doing a grave disservice to the public by not removing what is essentially a public hazard. And this project, if it moves forward, will remove that hazard.
Commissioner Miller, did you want to add?
Yes, my main concern with this is what other commissioners have brought up, where the book drop-off, where the vehicles depart the book drop-off, and there's other vehicles coming into that. And I know if it was me and I was dropping my son off at the library, I would just go straight forward and find myself head-to-head with the vehicles coming out of the book drop-off. So I could see supporting this current design, but I would have to have some sort of condition where it directs traffic coming into the library parking lot to the south. I believe that's to the south. To the south so that they don't head into the book drop-off traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti, did you want to, we have a little more discussion unless you're, okay. Commissioner Winchester?
Just one final comment. I guess the removal of the stair, I understand, although most people have figured out in this library over the last 20 years that if you drop somebody off at the front door, they go in, they go up the elevator to the main floor, and in they go. Yes, it wasn't the most convenient, but most people did not use these exterior stairs. They walked across, and I understand there's a conflict between vehicles and pedestrians there, but I guess the question is, we're eliminating that conflict, but we're also requiring them to walk through the snow and the slush another great distance. And I think we're doing a disservice to all the members of our community who we are protecting, in terms of ADA, on crutches, people with canes, elderly. We're now forcing all of those people to walk about 3 times the distance in an uncovered area. And I just find that just really going backwards on one big item that Alaska deserves to have a solution. And so therefore, yeah, I'd love to remove the stairs, but I think we have to find that solution. Thank you.
All right, do you have any additional discussion? Looks like Commissioner Sawhill.
I would like to suggest that we hear from her, and maybe she has a suggestion on the path that she would prefer us to take at this point.
So just to clarify, this is concept approval. So if we were to go back to redesign, then we would have to come back for concept approval and then come back for final approval. So I'm proposing, if you could, please craft a condition of approval. And so when we come back for final approval, we're taking into consideration your concerns and your comments, and that you'll see it again, but just one more time instead of 2 more times, because that will help us stay on schedule.
I guess I should be careful what I ask for.
There you go.
So do we have any additional discussion? I think Commissioner Leonetti is.
I was going to ask if we could take a 5-minute recess. Is that possible during a motion?
Take a break anytime we want.
Perfect.
We're the
We
board.
can't talk about it once we leave.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a 5-minute recess. We'll be back. Okay, it's been our 5-minute break. Commissioner Leonetti, are you ready to? Oh, are they here? Okay. Oh, yeah, they're still here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was attempting to craft a couple of conditions. And I will state them, and we will have discussion if we need to. So I'd like to move to add condition number 7, which is to eliminate the proposed parking lot west of the triangular-shaped landscape bed, which is west of the book drop-off. Condition number 8, reconfigure the book drop-off lane to not have any access to it and to have a one-lane configuration all the way to the ingress-egress of the parking lot to the south. And I would also like to, no, that's it. Come back to the other ones later.
Yeah, so he's got a motion. Okay, can you please state one more time the motion to amend that you have? Because I'm assuming, what we'll do is we're going to do a motion to amend, and then we can discuss at that point. So
Do I
push
need
your
to
motion.
say all that again?
Yeah, but I need you to push your,
Can we listen to the tape?
Well, you write them down.
I move to amend to add condition number 7 to eliminate the proposed parking west of the triangular-shaped landscape bed, which is located west of the book drop-off lane. Condition number 8 to reconfigure the book drop-off lane to prohibit vehicles coming into it and to have it extend to the ingress-egress drive lane of the parking to the south. Only one lane. Do I need to say it again?
your second one, I'd reconfigure book drop-off lane to extend,
To prohibit vehicles entering it
okay,
and
okay.
to extend only one lane to the ingress, egress of drive lane to the parking to the south.
Okay. We have a motion to amend that adds condition 7 and condition 8. Condition 7 states eliminate proposed parking lot west of the triangle-shaped bed that is west of the book drop-off lane. And condition number 8 is reconfigure book drop-off lane to prohibit vehicles from entering it and to extend as a single lane to the ingress-egress drive lane parking to the south. The motion was made by Commissioner Leonetti. It was seconded by Commissioner Condon. Do we have any additional discussion to this motion to amend? Commissioner Winchester?
Mr. Leonetti, so the book drop-off is going to end where it does, I mean, it's going to go through to this drive area. When you say the parking lot south, you don't mean far south, like going across the plaza
Correct.
or something, right?
Correct. So it will go travel in the southeast direction, and then it will make a turn and head west.
Right.
And then stop.
Understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Have any additional discussion on the conditions? Commissioner Sawhill?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I understand these two additional conditions, and I think they do help the site. Were you intending additional conditions beyond this to try to fix some of the other issues? Or was this as far as you were looking to go with additional conditions?
Through the chair, I was going to add the or rather modify condition number 2 to say consider. And I was not going to add anything else to the number 7 and 8.
I guess I'm a little torn. I understand Ms. Hickok wants to keep this moving forward, but for me, there are many issues with this site plan. And during the break, I considered some additional amendments or conditions to do to try to fix this, and I'm struggling with it. And I'm still, leaning towards no, even with these additional conditions. But we do need to deal with these additional conditions and then get to the main motion and decide what we want to do. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Winchester?
Madam Chair, I am also pretty much equally in a torn position. I understand this particular condition, and it does improve. I don't see that there's a lot of possibilities of how to improve this drop-off scenario, and I think the designers have agreed that there are a lot of other options. We just don't see them all and haven't had the opportunity to look at what they maybe see as the best solution to solve this drop-off issue. As far as pedestrian drop-off, basically an elderly person or a person in a wheelchair or on crutches, get them as close as we can to the front door. And I'm pretty much in the same position. I'm wanting to have them present those, and I understand that potentially holds up the process, but we don't know all the facts and figures here. We don't understand everything there is to know about fire department access and all the other things that they've been studying for weeks, months, years here. And I would really prefer to have them provide us with a solution that is the best. And so as much as I'd like to see this move forward, I'm pretty much going to stand by unless somebody has an idea of how they want to craft a condition that they have to provide some level of pedestrian drop-off that's within a reasonable distance of the front door, something close to what the master plan looks like it could provide. If that condition isn't added, I'm not going to support the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I intend to support the motion. I do recognize the same concerns that they have. However, as a commission, we have the same challenge if this motion, amended motion, doesn't pass, and if I retract the other one, we still have to give them direction as to what we want to see. And I guess I look at that as it's either a condition or it's go back and redesign and bring us blah. We still have to state that. Just by not supporting these two motions, I mean, it doesn't go away. We still have to identify what we want to see, and we need to be clear what that is and not just say, go design a parking lot. So with that, I don't have any other questions or comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Winchester?
Mr. Leonetti, and through the chair, my position is, I think, pretty straightforward. I'm looking for a condition that purposefully gives them that direction if we're going to give them conditions, and says design something that gets a drop-off zone close to the front door. I don't know if that's the words or something simply stated like that, and to bring that to us with, and I don't mind it goes, we approve concept based on that condition, but when it comes back to final, we want to see something different in that particular specific issue, which is the issue I think that the plan currently fails in the largest degree. So if you want to add, it's your motion and you've added an amendment, but if you want to add that kind of amendment to it, I'd be happy to, to look at it and support it.
Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Winchester, I encourage you to make a motion that supports what you were just describing. Thank you.
Commissioner.
We have a motion on the floor to amend.
We can do a motion to amend.
We need a vote on the amendment.
Yeah. So, Commissioner Sahel, did you have something to add to it? We're back with Commissioner Leonetti's amendments. Yeah. Can we do it?
We got to do the amendment first, and we can amend the amendment, and then we can amend the main motion. All right, I'm out of order, and I'll withdraw my motion to mess this up and get back in order.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do we have any additional discussion for the two proposed conditions from Commissioner Leonetti? Everybody please vote on those conditions. Okay, those conditions have been added. So now we are back to the main motion for approval of case 2014-0157. With approval for 2014-0157 with staff's conditions 1 through 6 and conditions 7 and 8 from Commissioner Leonetti. Do you have any additional discussion or additional amendments? Well, as soon as the computer catches back up with us.
Can you push her on the floor, please?
Okay, got it.
Commissioner Sahel.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm still a little hesitant to try to condition this to death to fix some of the deficiencies, but I'll take a shot at it. I would like to move to amend the main motion to add an additional condition number 9 to provide a drop-off area in a substantial conformance to the drop-off area shown in Exhibit A and on sheet L901, or an alternate solution that provides or an alternate solution equal to the drop-off area. So I've given them direction. That's what I would like to see. If they have another idea, I'm open to that. So I guess that's my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend that adds condition number 9, which is provide a drop-off area in substantial conformist to Exhibit A or L1901 or
An alternate solution.
thank you, an alternate solution. So that is made by Commissioner Sahel and seconded by Commissioner Winchester. Did you want to speak any more to the motion to amend, Commissioner Sahel?
I don't believe so, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner Winchester, would you like to speak to the second on it?
Just that I intend to support the second. Thank you, Mr. Sahel, for crafting that well-written amendment.
Is there any discussion on this amendment, motion to amend? Everybody please vote. So that motion to amend passes. Now, we are back to the main motion for approval of case 2014-0157, subject to staff's conditions 1 through 6, condition 7 and 8 added by Commissioner Leonetti, and condition number 9 added by Commissioner Sahel. Additional discussion. Commissioner Sahel?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I guess I just wanted to say that I intend to support the amended motion. I think it gives the petitioner direction on how we would like to see them move forward and keeps them on schedule, and we're looking forward to some wonderful solutions on the final site plan approval. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Do you have any additional discussion? Commissioner Winchester?
Madam Chair and fellow members, yeah, I intend to support the motion. I really appreciate the architectural work that's gone into making this work. I do encourage them to really look at that drop-off area. Is there a way to even reconfigure that along with this this pedestrian drop-off area to get us an avenue in a direction that really provides that with this project? And I know we have some really creative people on the team, and I think they have some solutions that they can bring forward. So I'm looking forward to seeing those.
Thank you. And Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to add one finding of fact and make a motion to change condition number 2. So I just pushed the motion button. So I'd like to amend the motion to change condition number 2 to read, consider a paved pathway across the landscape, and then the rest is the same.
Okay. So we have a motion to amend that changes staff condition number 2 to consider as opposed to provide. That has been made by Commissioner Leonetti, seconded by Commissioner Sawhill. Do we have any discussion? Is anybody opposed to that? Okay, so that has also been changed.
And the additional finding of fact relates to the that the project will be asking for a parking variance under AMC 2140-020J. That's it.
Thank you. Do we have any additional discussion? Nope. Okay. Can everybody please vote on case 20140157? Okay, that motion passes. Okay, now moving on to case 20140158. Do we have a staff report? Oh, hi, Monica.
Yes, Madam Chair. This project is a context-sensitive solutions transportation project plans in hand review of the Golden View Drive intersection and safety upgrades from Rabbit Creek Road to Romania Drive, Phase 1. The Phase 1 section of the upgrade occurs between Rabbit Creek Road and Ransom Ridge Road. The primary project goals are bulleted on page 1 of the staff packet. The project complies with the standards and policies as shown on pages 5 through 8. The project also complies with the Anchorage Pedestrian Plan, the Anchorage Bicycle Plan, and also the Hillside District Plan. This project does not provide any landscaping, only topsoil and seed. The project will maintain the existing neighborhood quality and will replace existing trees, shrubs, or boulders disturbed due to the road construction. The 8-foot wide pedestrian pathway on the west side of the road will improve public safety and use for area residents and provide a safe walking route to Golden View Middle School for students. A pedestrian walkway to allow crossing of the road is shown at Prominence Point Drive. There is no crosswalk or traffic control for the crossing. A continuous roadway LED lighting system current with MOA standards is proposed. This will reduce nighttime accidents as well as reduce low light levels. for pedestrian bicycles and fixed object crashes. The submittal notes on pages 4 and 23 without revising AO number 2013-89S1, improvements to Golden View Drive from Rabbit Creek Road to Ransom Ridge Road cannot include continuous roadway lighting. I think the petitioner is going to update us on that this evening. And the 3.5-foot roadway, the 3.5-foot shoulders will be striped, marked, and signed as bike lanes. 2 types of retaining walls are used, gabion basket and a soldier pile walls. A decorative fence is provided at the top of the gabion and soldier pile walls. And finally, the chain link fencing with wood cladding is shown atop stream culverts. That's all I have.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for staff? No? Okay, thank you. Petitioner, please come forward. And if you could please state and spell your name for the record.
Thank you. Mark Kimmer, M-A-R-K-K-I-M-E-R. I'm a landscape architect with Bettisworth North. With me tonight, I have Todd Jacobson with the Boutte Company, the project manager for the project. Erica Jensen with CRW Engineer, the project engineer, and Bill Johnson, the civil engineer project manager, also with CRW. Thanks for seeing us tonight. I wanted to give you a quick update on schedule and funding for the project. In July, CRW submitted the 65% PS&E package for the project for Phase 1, which included a full upgrade to Golden View Drive from Rabbit Creek to Ransom Ridge. This segment correlates with the segment that will be receiving continuous lighting, as staff stated. However, no major intersection improvements at the Golden View Drive Rabbit Creek intersection will be included in this Phase 1. Based on the 65% documents, the engineer's estimate for Phase 1 is $22.4 million. Currently, $7.55 million has been appropriated, resulting in a $14.8 million deficiency, so just under $15 million. The draft CIP includes $7.5 million for both 2015 and 2016. And it would provide sufficient funding to construct Phase 1 as seen in your package. It's anticipated to be bid ready in 2016. At our last open house, Representative Mike Hawker was in attendance and expressed strong interest in funding the project, Phase 1 of the project. I wanted to discuss the public involvement and the goals of the project as staff stated earlier. We've had 3 public open houses so far since the project began. On page 38 of your packets, there's a detail showing the dates of the public involvement meetings, as well as all the community council project updates, of which there are many. The consensus of the public and the agency stakeholders for the project was, as staff stated, improve the roadway to meet current MOA collector standards, improve area-wide drainage while maintaining creeks and flows to the wetlands near the project, improve bicycle and pedestrian safety, improve the Golden View Drive, Bluebell Drive intersection, which is currently Phase 2, so that's not a part of this Phase 1 that you're seeing. I just wanted to state that was presented. I didn't want to have there be any confusion about that being part of Phase 1. We're to evaluate solutions to address traffic congestion during peak hours on Golden View Drive, resulting from Golden View Middle School traffic, and then also to address speeding on Golden View Drive. We feel that the project design achieves these goals, except for the Phase 2 Bluebell improvements, and we are prepared to answer any questions the Commission might have regarding these goals. Before that, regarding landscape, which I'm most able to directly speak to, the cross-section is seen on page 40 of your packets, including drainage improvements, the travelway for vehicles and the travelways, the shoulders for bicycles. 7 feet of snow storage as described in the design criteria manual, and pedestrian pathway. All these elements were included in the cross-section to achieve the goals determined to be important by the public involvement and the agency stakeholders. So it doesn't leave very much room, if any room, for landscaping. Through the context-sensitive solution process, it wasn't voiced by the public or stakeholders that there should be additional right-of-way taken to accommodate landscaping. It's on the hillside, so I think I would leave the description of the character of the alignment as that hillside, heavily treed with native birch, spruce, alder, right at the back of the right-of-way. We do provide fall protection railing at retaining walls over 30 inches in height and chain link fence with wood-clad posts and rails at culvert head walls. Details for those can be seen on page 131 and 132 of your package. And then the head wall locations for the culverts are on page 55, 59, and 60. So there's 3 crossings the culverts make where there's head walls that need fall protection railing. Regarding walls, gabion baskets are predominantly used in the project. We have one, that's seen on page 93 of your package. We have one soldier pile wall just south of the Prominence Point subdivision entry. And that type of wall was used to essentially protect existing utilities there. It was a mitigation of cost. That's about all I had. Erica is going to talk to the division recommendations on page 4.
Hi, Erica Jensen, Jensen. And I just wanted to speak briefly about the recommendations 1 through 4 on page 4. We take no issue with the recommendations, but I wanted to point out that condition number 2, in regards to impacts to the wells and septics, we are actively coordinating with the property owners whose wells and septics will be impacted and finding appropriate mitigation solutions for that. And for condition number 4, the lighting history, I did want to update you on the lighting, what all has been going on with the lighting. The lighting started back in October of 2012 when the Rabbit Creek Community Council submitted a letter to the Planning and Zoning Commission requesting rural lighting along this roadway. And then in January 2013, the Planning and Zoning Commission had a public hearing approving the project conditionally with rural lighting. There were no rural lighting standards, so in October of 2013, the Planning and Zoning Commission passed an ordinance requiring non-continuous roadway lighting. The result of this was that this roadway then became not a safe walking route to school. There's a criteria that the school district uses, and lighting is not the only criteria, but you get more points if you use that continuous lighting. So then in April of 2014, after our multiple communications with the community council, they submitted a resolution to support continuous lighting to meet the criteria for a safe walking route to school. We then met with the school district, the traffic, and the municipal engineer to assure that we would meet the safe walking route to school if we added continuous lighting on this roadway. That was all agreed, and in October of 2014, we submitted an assembly memorandum to Assembly Member Johnston to recommend amending the ordinance to allow for continuous lighting in order to meet the criteria for a safe walking route to school. And we now can answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the petitioners? Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't catch your name, ma'am. Sorry.
Erica Jensen.
Ms. Jensen, thank you. The assembly memo that was just submitted in October, is that in our packet somewhere?
No, that was
It's not.
No.
And that memo was intended to introduce an amendment to the ordinance that said that they want lighting now instead of no lighting.
It's intended to submit an amendment to the original ordinance that allows lighting on a case-by-case basis for areas that may require additional roadway lighting to sufficiently meet Anchorage School District criteria to classify as a non-hazardous walking route to school. So it would add that language specifically to AO 213-89S1.
Okay. Thank you. And then, Mr. Kimmer, a question on the landscape. The cross sections in the beginning of the packet do not show the right-of-way. And I understand constraints with right-of-ways, and what I don't want to have happen is landscaping accidentally designed out of a project because all of a sudden we don't have room for it. So could you help in showing the right-of-way or discussing that on, I mean, I know it's cut through the hillside, and I would like to see vegetation other than just grass growing.
Sure. Well, I can direct you to the cross sections in page 49 through 54, and then you have plan and profile of the project from there. I also look for opportunities in projects to use landscaping because I'm a landscape architect, so we consider that when we go through the draft DSR process and then the final DSR. I guess to be good neighbors, we repaired landscape that was affected by construction at Prominence Point, which is actually quite an ornamental landscape there. We did repair some retaining walls and so forth that were private landscapes along the way and replace some trees that were taken out in 2 locations. If there were pockets that might offer places for trees to be planted, and I might point out an opportunity in front of Golden View Middle School. It's basically a big sign and manicured lawn and boulders surrounding, at the edge of the drive. Through the public process and working with the stakeholders, it was not voiced that any additional landscape be placed there. Maintenance reasons, upkeep, and again, the character of the alignment on the hillside. So I'm not sure I'm helping you out very much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the comments, and I know that you're a landscape architect and you look for opportunities, but there's a Comp 2020 plan. What are they called? Trying to find the number here. Policy that basically says the road improves, the project improves the road, and I'm not sure what the improvement is. I don't consider vegetation, lawn or grass, really an improvement.
Well, I think, at least in my mind, the improvements are the cross section of the road, making it safer, walkable for once. It is not now. So I feel in that specific case, the improvements are there. It's not lost on me that, we have quite a long alignment without much, if any, landscaping associated with it. We'd certainly entertain, adding some if there was an appropriate place or if it had been voiced that we would need that. And I guess I would also point to the Design Criteria Manual, Chapter 3. I'm not sure you guys know this, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but I could pass it around about collector streets. And it isn't much. There's a collector street with essentially the cross section that we show, which is essentially street, a separated pathway, snow storage behind the back of curb, and then nothing beyond that. There's another condition for collector street with landscape buffer, and then there's landscape on the back side of that separated pathway. Again, the character of the alignment up there is that there's nothing to buffer from with the landscape. It's essentially mature birch, spruce, hillside type forest. We did look for other ways to maybe bulk up the aesthetic, gateways, art, something like that. Again, it did not fall into it wasn't desired by any of the stakeholders of the public when that was brought up.
Okay, thanks. That kind of leads into the next one, that sometimes vegetation, as it's closer to the road, affects the speed, and it was a concern, I believe it was of the public, that the speed on the road or speeding on the road is a problem, and it's kind of interesting that speeding is a problem, but yet the speed limit is increased, and there really isn't anything done to try to bring the vision cone down to eliminate people from going faster. The vision cone is wider. So
That's why I have Erica here
Perfect.
to help me out on this one. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Erica Jensen. We did a lot of studying on the speeding because it was a concern of the residents. And the 85th percentile speed currently on the road is 46.5. And based on a lot of national studies, the safest road is when you place the speed limit close to the actual traveling speed. And unless we could provide speed humps, which are not appropriate on this collector road with these traffic volumes, or change the alignment so it's no longer straight but curving, there isn't much we can do to actually physically reduce the speeding on the road. So to address the speeding, we proposed that we match the travel speed with the posted speed. And the traffic division agreed and supported that. And one of the questions we got a lot was, well, if you raise the speed, people are going to speed faster. But that's not actually what happens based on all these national studies. Is they're going to speed what they're going to speed. And whether we post it at 40 or 35, they're going to probably still go 46. And raising the speed limit by about 5 miles per hour only raises the travel speed by about 1 to 1.5 miles per hour. So we didn't address it in the terms of we're slowing them down. We addressed it in terms of we're making the corridor safer by matching the design criteria with what people are actually doing.
So the width of the road is the same or bigger, and the vertical curves are...
The vertical curves, with continuous roadway lighting, we are actually able to shorten the vertical curves so that will actually reduce speeding because it's not comfortable for them to drive faster. And the width of the road, the travel lane is the same, but we've added striping as well as barrier curb and gutter, which visually will reduce what they see as their wide open space to travel.
So I guess it's still a concern, is it, if you think that the public not being here, everybody on the hillside recognizes that, oh, we had a speeding concern, now we can go faster. The speed limit increased.
It's come up at all of our community council meetings as well as all of our open houses, and the public is split. Half of them do understand and support, okay, I see that, you're right, raising the speed limit to match what we're speeding already is safer, and the other half, they're not quite convinced. So there's not a set for or against the speeding. They understand and some don't.
Okay, thank you. No other questions.
Commissioner Ream?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi. So I'm not comfortable with, and I realize that there's no set landscaping requirement for collector roads, but I'm not comfortable with what the staff packet on page 1 says, and I know it's back quoting you from behind, that says, along most of the roadway, the proposed pathway, drainage, and DCM recommended space for snow clearing, blah, 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 doesn't allow room for landscaping. But as I was just going through, and forgive me because I'm trying to compare road sheets with landscape sheets, and there's not a lot of topography shown, but I was finding a lot of dead space that was just shown as topsoil and seed, and where you were showing actually removing trees and setting the tree line back to the right-of-way line. And it was just curious as to why you didn't just put a couple of spruce trees back in some of these areas where we're showing them, like maybe, now Ransom Ridge, that one's kind of steep, so I'm not sure about that one, but forgive me, I have to go back through my notes. So just for example, we have, and this might have been a property owner request, but on sheet L4, which I'm not sure what that is in the staff packet,
I can find that for you for the rest of the commissioners.
I think they have 126. On sheet L4, we show putting we show putting back some trees that we maybe were taking out, or we're putting trees on the, what is it, the west side of Golden View? We've taken trees out just north of that, and we're not putting any trees there, and it seems to be the same right-of-way width.
You can see the right-of-way line there, and that the trees are they're virtually on the right-of-way.
Mm-hmm.
There's existing trees for that residence there that are being taken out by the project. So again, trying to find opportunities and to do landscaping and then be good neighbors is to replace those. There's boulders at Ransom Ridge, other instances like that.
That was a bad example, but just looking at I guess that's parcel 60 or whatever to the north, it looks like you're removing trees and putting them back onto the property. Was there any complaint from property owners for that?
There weren't any complaints in the packet too, and I was remiss in mentioning it. A goal of the landscape is to retain as much existing vegetation as possible. So that would include demarking tree protection zones, making sure that any trees that were affected by grading or trenching or anything like that weren't damaged to a point where they might pose a risk later. So there's an evaluation done through the process of design. And I guess, I don't know if I want to just go on about what might be for the landscape. We no doubt could probably find some other spots for trees here and there. To me, it comes down to a question of, is it needed? It's an expense for the project. It's a maintenance expense down the road. And this is somewhat, I've got to fly here.
Yeah.
Somewhat, not out of town certainly, but if you can understand my gist, it's not close necessarily. So we're trying to balance good, logic and I guess logical design, expenditure of money, the public's money for things that may not make much of a difference.
I guess that's everybody's opinion.
Absolutely.
One place I was finding was a great opportunity would be, I think it's Little Rabbit Creek culvert. We have a plethora of right-of-way, and we're showing putting topsoil and seed back when we show taking away trees to a certain point. I'm assuming that's what that dark
The darker hatch, you're on L7, that's 129 of the package. That is the bigger crossing, the bigger head wall. The darker hatch is, correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, the stone that stabilizes, and then there's a couple different hatches. There's seed and there's also willow staking to reestablish the banks.
Right, and I guess I'm looking to the north of that as you it looks like this darker revision cloud, I call it, but it's the tree line.
Yes.
That looks like the demolition limits, I guess, or the end of the clearing zone where your clearing limits are.
Correct. We take the catch points from the engineering sheets and then match them up with clearing and seeding.
You're taking some trees out in this right-of-way that you possibly could put back and make it kind of, a pretty landscape around this head wall instead of just putting back grass. Anyway, these are just things that I noticed in reading the reason for not putting landscaping in was because you were limited on right-of-way. I feel like you're not in some areas. So I just wanted that, maybe consider putting more trees in.
We would absolutely consider input from the commission on additional landscaping.
Okay. That's actually all I had.
Thanks. Commissioner Miller?
Thank you. I have a question regarding the drainage. And I understand that in that area, there's fairly high groundwater, high bedrock. And is it currently, is the water routed to a roadside ditch?
Currently, the water is all routed to roadside ditches. There are no curb and gutter or piped storm drain systems. Erica Jensen, sorry. There are no piped storm drain systems on the road.
And did that create problems with runoff, with excess runoff?
The existing conditions have no piped storm drain. We're proposing a piped storm drain system, as well as a roadside ditch. The piped storm drain system will catch all the roadway water and drain off from the pathway and the roadway. And the roadside ditch is just on the uphill side, the east side, and that will continue to catch outflow and infiltration and everything coming out of the hillside. And the roadside ditch will be directed to their appropriate cross channel to maintain the wetlands downstream, as well as Potter Marsh, where it eventually outfalls. And the pipe storm drain system will be routed, for phase one, it will all be routed to Little Rabbit Creek and cleaned, obviously, before it is discharged into Little Rabbit Creek.
And what sort of cleaning process is in place?
Oil and grit separator.
Were there any opportunities for low-impact development and water quality facilities?
We did look at those, but the grades on the roadway are too steep to provide slow enough water movement to actually sediment out to settle out the sedimentation.
Okay, and then regarding the Rabbit Creek culvert, is that a fish passage culvert?
Yes, it is.
And then I also have a question regarding the bicycle lane. Currently, I don't think there is a lane. There's a sort of gravelish shoulder.
Correct.
Which is 6 feet wide. And there's proposed to have 3.5 foot wide bike lanes.
Correct.
Is that the design criteria? I know they're typically 5 feet wide.
They're 5 feet wide, but you can utilize the 1.5 foot gutter pan within that 5 foot requirement. So the bike lane for on-street bike commuters will be 3.5 foot of pavement, 1.5 foot of gutter pan concrete, and then additionally there's the multi-use 8 foot paved pathway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sawhill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple questions. First, I'll start with retaining walls. And, looking at the road plans, I saw retaining wall number 1 and retaining wall number 2. Is that all you have?
For phase one, correct. We only have 2 retaining walls. The southern phases have additional retaining walls.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of gabions. I think they look kind of industrial, and we are the Urban Design Commission, and so we like to see nice design. And have you considered any other materials for that gabion retaining wall, and why didn't you use them?
We did consider other materials. We did actually a cost analysis with using Allen block walls versus gabion walls. And like Mark was saying, the character of the hillside and the fact that this roadway is within ARTSA, so therefore is maintained by ARTSA, but physically is separated, we wanted to provide a cost-efficient, economical, maintainable retaining wall that did still fit the characteristic of the area. And for that reason, we did propose gabion walls as the first option, and only if those criteria and it was not economically feasible to be constructed did we look at another option like the soldier pile wall, which is retaining wall 1.
How tall will the gabion wall be?
The gabion wall is 7 to 9 feet tall.
And how long?
220 feet.
That's pretty significant visually.
Yes, it is. The one, and we've met with these homeowners as well because this was a concern of theirs as in addition to that. The nice thing for this wall from the homeowner's perspective is that it's a cut wall, so you'll see it from the roadway, but the property owners won't see it because they'll be sitting above it. So in terms of aesthetics, the property owners that the wall is adjacent to won't see the wall. They'll still see their...
But everyone driving down the road will?
Yes, they will.
Which is how many people a day?
In that area, it is about 7,000.
Okay. So it has significant traffic.
Yes.
And you're building an ugly wall. No answer there, I'm sorry. My next question is the soldier pile wall. And
Yes.
again, how tall is it and how long?
The soldier pile wall is between, where did my notes go? Soldier pile wall is 9 to 13 feet and 700 feet long.
So it's more significant. And I do believe the soldier pile wall will look better with the block facing you have on the front. Have you considered doing anything with the block facing to vary color, provide a pattern, provide any kind of interest to that wall to make it more visually appealing?
We did not look at providing variation or a pattern on the wall. We did just look at the block facing.
Is that something that you would consider?
Yes, we can consider looking at that for sure.
Yeah. Okay. My next question is the fencing that you're providing.
Yes.
You have two styles of fencing. The first is, trying to get to the right sheet where the fencing details are.
It's 131, 132.
How about L? What L number?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's L9 and 10.
L9 and 10. I guess starting on L10, the decorative fence detail that you provided.
Yes.
I looked at that and I thought that was a pretty good design. I think that'll be an attractive fence. I was curious, it seems to me like they're switched, that the decorative fence, this attractive decorative fence, should be down on the roadway at the head walls for the culvert crossings, and that the wood-clad chain link fence should be up above on top of the retaining wall. Do you have any comment on that?
Nothing other than at the time, because the walls were so long, we thought the galvanized one was a better appearance for that. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. That's, I guess, our logic at the time. We could certainly consider bringing the L10 wall down and doing both, or reversing them. I would want to look at the cross section again and look at the road and then how long that is. We kind of did a Photoshop and just took a look at it. So to answer your question, we would entertain a mixture, a different mixture, or a switch, or maybe just using one style.
Okay, and I had some additional questions on the drainage also. Drainage in this area of the hillside's been a problem for a while, and you guys got a tough job getting this all cleaned up for them. You're starting essentially a storm drain system at the south end of the project and bringing all the drainage to Little Rabbit Creek.
Erica Jensen, yes.
And have you done a downstream analysis of Little Rabbit Creek? Is it going to be able to handle that additional water?
Yes.
Okay, and are you required to get a flood hazard permit for that work?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so that'll all be taken care of?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Hi. I have a simple question. I live up there, and I know that having pathways is going to be great and safe. I just have a question at the intersection between Golden View and Rabbit Creek. Once you end your pathway, I feel that I'm nowhere, that I don't know where should I go. I know you're trying to get the pathway close to Rabbit Creek so the cars can see people, but then you're not in the crossway. So I don't understand how it will function in the corner, and I don't think it's safe the way that it is right now.
So in reference to page 61 is the one I'm looking at. That was tricky because we don't want to actually encourage pedestrians to cross Rabbit Creek. It is a major road, and there is no connecting pathway. So I'm open to ideas in terms of ending it, but we did kind of actually plan to just end it because we don't want to encourage a pedestrian to feel safe crossing here because there's no marked crosswalks, there's no pedestrian flashing signs, so we kind of did just want you to end.
Yeah, as a pedestrian, I will think that that's the point where I cross. So maybe if it stops before it's safer,
okay,
because then you know that there's no cross.
Okay.
But thank you, that was my only question.
Thank you. Do you have any additional questions for the petitioners? You guys have 2 minutes left on your time. Did you have anything you'd want to add?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. The matter now rests with the commission. Can I get a motion to approve case 2014-0158? Still need a motion to approve. Case 2014-0158. Thank you, Commissioner Sawhill. And we have a second from Commissioner Ream. Commissioner Sawhill, would you please state your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In case 2014-0158, I move for approval of the context-sensitive design solutions projects plan in hand review for Golden View Drive, it says intersection and safety upgrades, Rabbit Creek Road to Romania Drive, Phase 1, subject to staff's conditions 1 through 4. And I should have been a little more prepared. Condition number 5, consider varying color and creating a pattern on the soldier pile retaining wall. And condition number 6, consider providing the decorative fence details for the head wall pedestrian fencing. And that's all I have for my motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve case 2014-0158, subject to staff's conditions 1 through 4. Condition number 5, consider varying color and creating a pattern on the soldier pile retaining wall. Condition number 6, consider providing decorative fence detail for the head wall fencing. Head wall. Okay. That has been motioned by Commissioner Sawhill, seconded by Commissioner Ream. Commissioner Sawhill, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I intend to support the motion. I would concur with the findings of staff that the project meets the criteria of the comprehensive plan and the context-sensitive design criteria that we're to review. I think this is a good project. It is going to be a benefit to the Hillside and to Golden View Middle School to improve that access. I think the pedestrian improvements along the corridor are particularly important. I'm glad to see the continuous lighting going forward. I think continuous lighting on a collector road is a very important thing and appropriate at this location. And for those reasons, I intend to support the motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Ream, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, I intend to support Mr. Sawhill's motion. I do think this is a great project. It's a challenging project. As a civil engineer going through this massive plan set, I was very impressed by what you guys have accomplished here, or what you're going to accomplish. Can I amend now to add a condition? Sorry, new girl. I'd like to make a motion to amend to add a couple more conditions. One would be condition 7. Consider providing additional landscaping in open areas where you do have right-of-way. And number 8 would be speaking to Ms. Sullivan's consideration. Number 8, please consider ending the pathway at Rabbit Creek Road prior to that. I think that's a free right turn. So consider ending the pathway before the free right lane so it doesn't appear as though it's a crossing. That's it.
Can you push your button? Perfect. Thank you. All right. We have a motion to amend. It adds condition number 7, consider providing additional landscaping where there is the right-of-way. And 8, consider ending the pathway before, I missed the final wording on that. Consider ending the pathway before.
Free right lane.
Freeway?
The free right turn lane.
Free right turn. Oh, free right turn. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Free right turn. That has been proposed by Commissioner Ream, seconded by Commissioner Sahil. Is there any additional discussion? Nope. Is there any opposition? Okay. Motion to amend passes. Okay, so we are back to the main case 20140158, subject to staff conditions 1 through 4, conditions 5, 6, 7, and 8. Do we have any additional discussion? Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to add the finding of fact about the assembly motion or action that's going to happen, except I don't have the right verbiage in front of me, so I'd like to have the petitioner come back and state it, if that's possible, what their intention is for the assembly paper or whatever it was that she was referring to, because the project doesn't fly if that doesn't happen. The amendment to the ordinance, thank you.
Erica Jensen. We have an agreement on this language with Assemblymember Johnston, and we submitted the Assembly memorandum to amend the Assembly ordinance to include the following language. It is under the very end of the paragraph where it says we can also consider lighting on a case-by-case basis when necessitated by specific safety issues in the following areas. The existing Assembly ordinance covers areas 1 through 6, and we're proposing to add and 7, areas that may require additional roadway lighting to sufficiently meet Anchorage School District criteria to classify as a non-hazardous walking route to school.
Thank you. Were you reading that from the case packet?
No, I'm reading that from the...
Can I just look at that?
Can I go up? Can I come up to you?
Thank you.
We met with Assemblymember Johnston and agreed upon this language, so it is now just going through the process of getting officially approved via the memorandum and then the actual amendment.
So this language, it could potentially change, right?
Yes.
Can we take a 5-minute break? And I give this back to her? Because I'd like to have the right verbiage, and putting all that into motion, I think, is over the top. And if it changes, then it doesn't matter. And if it can be just crafted as like, the assembly will be amending the lighting, whatever that document is that's referenced here in the case packet. Okay, I will find it. Hold on. The project, so the amendment will state the project in,
Commissioner Leonetti, you're doing a finding of fact, right, not an amendment?
I'm sorry, yeah, finding.
Okay.
The finding
Okay.
is that the project is in the process of amending Anchorage Ordinance number 2013-89 S-1. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you. Do we have any additional discussion? And everybody, we just lost Commissioner Winchester. We wait for him probably. We lost.
Last one.
Yeah, we lost one. Okay, can everybody please vote on approval for case 201400158? All right, that motion passes. Does anybody want a break before we go? So we'll come back at, it's 9:05 right now. Do you want 5 minutes or does anybody want? So we'll come back at 9:10. Okay, I'm going to bring us back from break. This opens the public hearing part of our meeting this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and read the procedure by which you speak at the Urban Design Commission. So the procedure by which the public may speak to the Urban Design Commission at its meetings is, one, after the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. When persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established by the Urban Design Commission rules of procedure. Petitioners, including all of his or her representatives, get 10 minutes. Rebuttal by the petitioner may be allowed when time has been reserved. Representatives of groups, community councils, PTAs, etc. get 5 minutes, and individuals get 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the commission. You may only testify once as on any issue unless questioned by the commission. An individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Urban Design Commission takes, except commission recommendations to the Assembly which are not appealable. Appeals must be filed at the clerk's office within 20 days after approval by the Urban Design Commission of the resolution, which is the commission's final decision. A fee for the appeal is required at the time of filing, and an individual may request written findings from any commission decision within 7 days. So this takes us to case 20140159. Do we have a staff report?
We do, Madam Chair. This is a review of an amended site plan for East High School athletic facility improvements. The school district seeks project review for the addition of a sports field, bleachers, scoreboard, lighting, a public address system, and related amenities to allow the school to host athletic events on site. The various improvements are noted on pages 1, 2, and 3 of the packet. The project is consistent with goals and policies and land use designations of the comprehensive plan, policy 44, 78, and 89. A public meeting to present the proposed athletic facility improvements was not held. The only public meeting held was on March 19th, 2013, to present the new field turf installation. No one from the public or neighborhood neighborhoods attended the meeting. The project was noticed as a public hearing, and 438 public hearing notices were mailed to landowners, and 42 were returned as undeliverable. No notices were returned with comments. Notices were also sent to the Russian Jack, Airport Heights, and University Area Community Councils. At the time of this writing, only the Airport Heights Community Council has provided comments, and those are in your packet. The light intensity grid site boundary sheet indicates that vertical foot candles will be relatively high at the property line. This is due to the location of the track and field at the north side of the property. The 80-foot stadium lights are positioned near residential development to the north. The submittal states that final installation will be required to not exceed 0.3 vertical foot candles at the residential property line north of East 20th Avenue. The equipment layout sheet shows that the foot candles will meet this objective. The petitioner's representative indicated that the lighting designer noted that the foot candles of the street lights will exceed the lighting levels from the stadium lights at the residential property line to the north. The division has 3 recommendations as shown on page 5 of the packet.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay. Would you like to begin your presentation and please state and
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the Commission, my name is Dwayne Adams. I'm with Earthscape, working with Stan Tech, who's a consultant to the Anchorage School District on this project. We've also been the consultant on numbers of other projects. The drive to provide fields and stadium seating at each school was actually not driven by the school district, but was community generated. Numbers of boosters and numbers of members of the public desired that we follow the model that most schools across the United States follow, and that is that you would have a stadium at your school so that you could have home field advantage for your games and not travel someplace that has their own stadium and lose that home field because you're dealing with a neutral site. And so through that drive, they were successful with the legislature, raising money for all the schools. And at this point, East High and South High are the only schools that don't have both an artificial turf field as well as grandstand seating. Specifically at East High, they don't have full funding. They have slightly over $1 million. These projects have been running $2 to $2.5 million. So the school district is going to be seeking funding from the legislature, but your guess is as good as anybody else's with respect to the potential there. It is a relatively bare bones proposal trying to make it as palatable to the legislature and funders as possible. And so with respect to that, the project you see before you provides for seating for 1,500 on the home side, 1,000 on the visitor side, depending on funding levels. It's very possible that only portions of that project will be designed. We have to see. We're here for the concept approval, of course. It also has the typical amenities that go with this. It has a press box that will sit in the home grandstand side. There will be a flag. There will be a scoreboard. There will also be concessionaire seats, ticket booths, some paving to get people in an accessible manner up into the area. There will be some fencing for crowd control during events. Of course, that'll be fully open for neighborhood use, which is quite popular actually at this school. So the project is one that you've seen many times. This one is a little bit different though, in that the visitor side, instead of being on in this case, what would be the north side or opposite the home stands, is actually on the west side, so it's at an end zone. And that's a simple matter of a large slope that sits on the north side that precludes us from being able to locate that without getting into some pretty extreme engineering, costly implications with resulting from that. So it's as a result, we have a funny little west side, visitor side, but I'm sure that won't take away from the fan experience. We're still dealing with high school. So with respect to the project, I think you see it fairly represented in your packet, so I won't go into it unless you have specific questions beyond that. With respect to the recommendations of staff, the first two certainly are reasonable, and we'll do those. And the third one is reasonable, although the provisions for trying to deal with foot stomping, and that's people, if you've ever been to Sullivan Arena, let's get this thunder going in the Sullivan Arena. And those are a very loose aluminum system that is quite dated now. It uses a design that's not typically done anymore. And a lot of the systems now are much stiffer. They've learned how to make them stronger. They're also connected vertically, so there is some attenuation there, where we're right up against some neighborhoods that have, I guess, voiceably demonstrated their concern about noise. We have taken some measures. We have not received that kind of opposition here. Noise treatment for the bleachers runs anywhere, just the treatment of a bleacher with a spray on that deadens the sound is about $50,000, and if we have to encapsulate those, it's very expensive. This project, in all honesty, is on the margin cost-wise. So what we do ask is that there's some elevation changes here. We don't have a strong opposition from the neighborhood, but that's no reason not to consider the noise implications to that neighborhood. But what we do want to do is to look at what kind of sound is being generated. I was at West High at their homecoming game with somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 1,500 people in the stands. And I was sitting with Mr. Tony Barrett, who's with DHHS at the city, and we listened to the sound, and though those were treated, the treads were treated, they were not encapsulated, but we were very surprised at how little sound came when the fans were stomping their feet. So prior to entering anything that would mandate that we definitely treat it, what we do suggest is that item 3 be reworded as follows, and you may want to write this down or record this as necessary, and that is investigate the amount of noise potentially generated by foot stomping and what measures should be taken to mitigate if necessary. And so what we want to do is work with Mr. Barrett to determine how much of an issue this really is by either testing some similar bleachers. There have been some of a similar design established here recently that we can get a group in there or look at some models that might allow us to determine how much of an issue this really is. Again, if we had a good-sized budget as we have at some schools, it really wouldn't be an issue, but we really aren't that optimistic with respect to what we might get out of the legislature. We're really on the edge, and so we simply ask for the leniency to determine what kind of an issue it is, and if indeed it is, then address it appropriately. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I would note that there are members of the school district, the engineering firm Stantec, as well as the Booster Club for East High, who are strong proponents for this, and any of us or all of us could answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan.
Okay. First question is just to clarify that the west existing walk connects to the north existing walk. It's maybe just missing there in the drawing.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Sullivan, are you looking at
Exhibit
page
C.
41C?
Exhibit C.
Right, and the question is on the west side?
Yes, we have an existing walkway that connects to 20th Avenue.
Yes.
I'm assuming they are connected, right? It's just like
yes.
Okay. Another question is.
Yeah, I'm not sure there is actually a walk on 16. There is not a walk there, so it does not connect to a walk on that side.
Okay. I have another question from the west parking lot. I can see that you guys address the accessible route and put all your ADA stalls at the east side of the parking.
Yes.
What's the route that the pedestrians that are not in ADA vehicles will take to get to the entry?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Sullivan, the parking is oriented east-west, so if most people will park in that parking lot that's on the west side of the stadium. So they would travel up those drive aisles, basically, much as we do in most parking lots, and then they would collect on this sidewalk that you see along the, as you pointed out, the eastern edge of that parking lot, and from there would join a new sidewalk. The entry, for example, is on that southwestern corner, and so there's a new sidewalk there that connects. And right there where those two little dots are there.
And now, you have a gate and a door. Which of both is going to be, are they going to be both open?
The one gate that you see underneath the words existing perimeter fence, that's a service gate. So the only thing that's open is right there at those two ticket booths, which is that large, probably asphalt area that you see there. So all fans will come into that entrance.
And there's a connection between the facility and the east parking lot?
Well, there is, as I'm sure Commissioner Winchester knows quite well, there's a parking lot, what we would generally call the east lot, directly south of the field. Oh, the Russian Jack parking lot, is that the one? There is not a paved path that connects directly. Sorry, I was referring to it's east of the East High School. And no, there's not a direct connection there, and that is a long connection, but there is ample parking in the existing lot to the west. There is also ancillary parking directly south. Then there's even further, a lot further to the south. And so there's ample parking that certainly is available. It's doubtful it would ever be used, but it's certainly available. But there is not a connection, no.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Winchester?
Thank you, Dwayne. Just a couple of questions. This field has, wasn't really clear necessarily, but this field has new artificial turf already on it, correct?
Correct.
So basically it's laid out, it's all done, it's all new, it's just the bleachers that you're doing.
Correct.
The second thing is that there was a master plan done for the site, and I believe, but maybe you can check, all of the improvements that were basically delineated here were part of a master plan that was actually approved by the city and the community council now almost 8 years ago.
That is correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on that note about the master plan, if these items are on there, why are we looking at it again?
Well, I believe that was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, if I'm not mistaken, as a master plan for the school. And this is being brought to you as the Urban Design Commission for design review at a concept level.
Okay. Thanks. So a couple other questions. In the southeast corner of the track, it looks like there's the fence, the security, it's called perimeter fence, chain link spectator fence. It looks like it goes through the run out of the 100-yard dash. Is that supposed to be like that?
My guess is that's not quite shown the way it's probably supposed to.
Perfect. And then there's some little rectangles that are just to the east of that, as well as on the other side of the 100-yard dash. What are those?
Long jump, I believe those are long jump and triple jump. Shot, discus.
No, not down there.
Shot, discus, long jump, triple jump.
At the end of the?
It depends on the school. It's funny. Several schools, that's the way it's designed. Other schools don't like that at all. So it varies from school to school.
Okay.
You would think there would be a standard, but track coaches have definite preferences. I can assure you that, and they vary.
Okay, thanks. And could you describe the officials warming hut, the material, and is it permanent? Is it temporary, only in inclement weather? Does it come in and out, or what is it?
Well, it's basically it will. The intent is you have these officials, it's snowing, it's cold, it's miserable, it gives them a place to get out of the weather, and they don't have to be besieged by people yelling at them for bad calls. It's a bad call refuge.
So it's a permanent structure then?
It would be intended to be so. With the funding, that's a pipe dream, but you never can tell, right? I mean, mana does come from heaven sometimes.
The materials would match the concession stand?
Hopefully it would be that, yes.
Great. And then could you explain the orientation of the entrance, why the priority from the parking lot to the south rather than from the larger parking lot to the west?
Well, understand, of course, mostly it's serving the school, so it's oriented to the school. And if you're familiar with East High, one of the major entrances and the swimming pool and everything is on the north side of the school. It's right here. So for student accessibility, it certainly is best, and that makes sense because it's a shorter distance for students to get into the field. And, if it were facing the parking lot, they'd have to go out towards traffic, and certainly we want to avoid that.
Okay, great. No other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions for the petitioner? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to come testify? And if you could please state and spell your name for the record, that would be great.
Good evening. Jeff Trotter, Trotter. I'm the head football coach at East High, and I do that in my spare time in between being a physical therapist in town. So, what I've seen in the last 20 years of coaching, and I've been at 4 different high schools here, is that these fields are creating a community atmosphere. And given the area of town that we live in, the diverse populations, and what we see over there, it's going to be a huge key. I've seen more activity at that field and that center right now, even without these improvements being done, than I've seen at any school, even when I was in Florida, that the community utilizes this. And with some of the things that have happened down at AFS, so just for example, east and south, that's got to be their home field at this point. Somebody came in and stole all the copper wiring out of the portables because the portables are being used because the current locker rooms at AFS were condemned. So as of next year, they're looking at probably no portables, which means no heat, no lighting for any of the teams that are there. So this is our intent, is that it's almost becoming a necessity that we start looking at least finish the home fields for at least east and south, because it's not going to be a very viable option to be down at AFS given the situation there anymore, especially you live in Florida, being outside the entire time is an issue. You live in Alaska, it's rain, it's snow, it's sleet, whatever it may be. There's some serious climate issues that we've got to deal with and things of that matter, which can actually lead into things I deal with as far as injuries and other issues like that. And we also want to keep those officials warm. So yeah, the warming hut's going to be a good deal. They have one at AFS, and they seem to, that's where they go, that's where they collect their thoughts and discuss things at halftime. So, some of the projects we've looked at, Bartlett West, that have come online this year have had a really huge community support, and the turnout's been awesome. Seeing those home games have been something that, having grown up here and played here, that I saw at Chugiak and never thought we were going to get in town. And seeing that come to light has been a really big cog to this whole thing growing. And we're getting more kids out for these sports, and being able to come and walk to a game in the community that I coach in is going to be huge for these kids, because they need to see these role models on the weekend that they're not getting to see right now because they don't have the access to get downtown and see them at AFS. So I urge you to please push this through for us. Thank you. All right, thanks.
Melissa Martin, Martin. I am a community member. I am a parent, and I'm also a Booster Club treasurer at the high school. As far as the noise and the traffic goes, East Anchorage welcomes more people coming into our neighborhoods for a positive reason. What? Oh, you can't hear me? Having the field there, it's a good positive way to bring people to East Anchorage in a good way. I live less than a half a mile away from the school in Russian Jack Park. The noise is not an issue for me. There's very few houses there. I think it's more important the benefits of what the parents and the school and the community as a whole will get from having this field completed and them being able to go and see their teams play. The Special Olympics go there. We have track and field there. There's tons of soccer games there all the time, flag football. It's something that the whole school and community will use as a whole. I think all the other stuff will work itself out. I think it needs to be done. I brought my son with me because I wanted him to experience what it's like and what it takes for us to get this approved, and all the hard work that the parents and the coaches and everybody at the school has done to get this project completed. And I really hope that it gets done sooner than later so we can all enjoy it.
Mike, sorry. Thank you. Would anybody else like to come and speak? So you have a little bit of time for rebuttal?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have any further questions for anybody? No? Everybody's good? Okay, so the matter now rests with the commission. Can we get a motion to approve case 20140159? We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Ream and a second from Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Ream, would you care to state your motion?
Yes. In the case 20140159, review of an amended site plan for East High School athletic facility improvements, I move to approve this site plan, subject to the condition number 1 and 2 provided in the staff packet. And I'm going to make an attempt to revise condition number 3, and I may need help. Condition number 3, I propose to change it to state, investigate the amount of noise potentially generated from foot stomping and what can be done to mitigate the noise to acceptable levels. Is that, I know that wasn't exactly what you said. If necessary.
Nice, got it.
Did you get it?
Okay, we have a motion to approve case 20140159, subject to staff conditions 1 and 2, and changing condition number 3 to investigate the amount of noise potentially generated from foot stomping and mitigate as necessary. Do we have any, Commissioner Ream, would you care to speak to your motion?
I intend to support my motion. I do feel as the football coach and the parent that this is a great addition to the East High School facility, much needed, much deserved, and I think it will bring positive community, just proactive use, and so I guess that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Winchester, would you like to speak to your second?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I would. I also am going to support the motion. This was one of the last phases of work that was supposed to be done at East High School. I'm glad to see that it's moved up to much further. There are still 4 more phases of work to be done at East High School. We completed 6 of 10 phases before the bonding didn't pass.
This particular one, at least it did get the fields were changed over to artificial turf, but this will definitely bring the same equal participation for East High School. And by the way, the largest high school in the state of Alaska currently has more students than any other high school by a factor of at least 20%. And I think it means a lot to have that there for that community, a long-standing, which I actually went to school there at one point in my career. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any additional discussion? Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to add a couple of findings of facts. I'll start with just the project description. The project consists of a new accessible pathways, a new set of bleachers, scoreboards, lighting, public address system, and related amenities to allow the school to host athletic events. That's number one. Number two is project conforms to Title 21 and the following Anchorage 2020 Comprehensive Plan policies. Policy number 44, which is design and build public improvements for long-term use. Policy number 78, design municipal facilities frequented by the public, particularly schools, to accommodate.
Can you speak into your microphone? Thank you.
Particularly schools to accommodate year-round multi-purpose activities. And policy number 89, to encourage the year-round use of public schools as neighborhood and community centers. Number 3 is that the grandstands seating is for approximately 2,500 spectators in 2 separate locations, with about 1,500 spectators for the home team and 1,000 spectators for the visiting team. Number 4 is there are accessory buildings on the project. That includes a press box, a ticket booths, a future athletic team building, concession stands, and an officials warming hut. Number 5, sports field lighting is provided on both sides of the field and is designed to maintain uniform lighting on the field while eliminating light trespass on a private property in accordance with the municipal requirements. And number 6, the public address system for the home and visitor stands is included in the project. The speakers will be located on poles adjacent to the grandstands to direct sound towards seating. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Leonetti. Is there any additional discussion? And everybody please vote on case 2014-0159. And that motion has passed. Okay. Do we have any additional commissioner comments this evening before we adjourn the meeting? No, can I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, we are adjourned.